Wails is a cross-platform technology that lets you build desktop-grade apps in Go. This has been requested a ton of times on the channel after doing a bunch of desktop comparison videos. So today I'm going to take you through using Wails to build desktop-grade apps and compare it to using frameworks like Electron and Tauri. We're going to go through the build of a desktop video recorder, which we've done in other videos, and compare things like file size, performance, and developer experience. And Wails is actually completely new to me, so we're going to be learning together on this one. So Wails works very much in the same way as Tauri, but the backend is in Go rather than Rust. You still build a front end in a web view using web technologies, then called native APIs, which are managed by Golang. This means you can compile an application that's compatible with both Mac and Windows. But unlike Electron, Wails does not embed a browser. Instead, it reuses the native rendering engine for each platform, much like Tauri does. So the bundle size technically should be a lot smaller, but we're going to see that later on when we do the comparison. And if you enjoy content like this, guys, then subscribe for more. So this is the screen recording tool that I've developed with Wails, and I've also done the same thing in Electron and Tauri. We'll select the screen that we want to record, press record. You can move the mouse around. The actual desktop app won't appear in the record itself. I'll press stop. Then you can see the screen I've just recorded. I could cut this up if I wanted to, and then just click export to MP4 to just save the video directly to my machine. So if we look inside the build for this, you'll see that it's a very similar setup to what you would expect on Electron. We have all the front-end files in a front-end folder, and then we have the entry file, and in this case, it's a Go file called main.go. And inside here, we've got a main function. Again, you would expect to see a similar thing inside Electron, and we can do things like declare the title, the width and height, set things like the background color, and then set things for Mac specifically. So if you do want differences between Mac and Windows, that's completely possible. Now, if we look inside the front end here, inside source, you would actually see all of the React code. So if we look inside app.tsx, this is just standard React code, except from we're calling APIs that are defined on the Go side. So if we look at this import here, API, and see its usages across the file, you can see we're doing API.on recording finished, on recording failed, start recording, and that API is automatically generated by Wails. So if we look inside the API itself, you can see that all of the core functions are coming from this file here, wails.js/go/main/app. Now, if we look inside here, you can see that this file is automatically generated, and we've got Welsh at the top and English. And that's because, believe it or not, the creator of Wails is Welsh. So we've got all these functions here like export video, list sources, request screen access, all the things that you would need for a screen recording tool. So then if we jump over to the Go side here in app.go, and then we comment out list sources and then save that file, you'll see that suddenly we get an error inside api.ts because now list sources does not exist. And this is because we're running wails.dev. So anytime a change happens inside the Go file, it automatically re-renders the TypeScript definitions. So if we go back now and then comment this back in, you'll see that now the error disappears, and then the desktop app actually reloads because all of the changes from the Go side, so from the backend, automatically recompile and re-render the application. Now let's do some comparisons to see the difference between these three frameworks. First, we'll look at bundle size. Wails comes in at 52 megabytes, Tauri at 57 megabytes, and Electron, at no surprise, 324 megabytes. Wails and Tauri are noticeably smaller here, and that's because they do not bundle Chromium, so that's pretty much expected. However, I would say by using each platform's native web view, which is what Wails and Tauri do, you are more likely to see some platform differences. That is much less of an issue these days, but just something to keep in mind. So basically, Tauri and Wails are going to produce similar artifacts in terms of bundle size because both frameworks are architected in pretty much the same way, despite using vastly different technologies under the hood. Now, let's take a look at startup time. And as with previous videos I've done on desktop apps, we're going to launch each of these apps 10 times and then just take the average. Wails comes in at 385 milliseconds, Tauri at 410 milliseconds, and Electron at 350 milliseconds. Now, with cold starts where we purge the cache each time, Wails gets 2,337, Tauri 2,049, and Electron comes in a little bit faster actually at 1,890. Now looking at performance, and as with Tauri, the runtime performance when recording the screen is much better than Electron, and that's actually because of our setup where we use the native capture kit from Mac, so no data is traveling over the bridge. Whereas with Electron, we record from the web view itself and then pass data to the backend, which does come with a little bit of overhead. Technically, you could use the native capture kit if you was to write some custom C code with Electron, but this is like the default way of doing things with Electron, so that's what we're comparing it to today. Now, let's take a look at developer experience, and this is really where we're going to see the biggest difference. I actually really enjoyed building with Wails. However, I would say the part around screen capture was not as easy as with Tauri. I had to write Objective-C code to access Capture Kit, whereas with Tauri, you could stay completely in Rust. And this is because Rust has a big ecosystem of community crates wrapping Apple's native frameworks. So in Tauri, I just pulled in a crate called Screen Capture Kit, and the whole recording API is normal Rust. Go has nothing decent for Screen Capture Kit that I could find, but it does have something called Go, which is Go's built-in way for compiling C code. This means with Go, you can just write native C in a .m file, expose it as plain C functions, and then tell Go which of Apple's frameworks to link against. So this means you end up writing real Objective-C and calling the same Apple APIs as the Rust crate, but this time you own all of the code. That actually ended up being about 450 lines of Objective-C code, which the Rust app just didn't have. So overall, I am leaning slightly more towards Tauri. The ecosystem around Rust crates is better from what I found, but really it does come down to preference. If you like developing it in Go, then Wails is a really decent option. And if you like Rust, then just choose Tauri. However, if you do pick Wails, you may have to write some native code just because the ecosystem isn't as established. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this one, guys, and you can subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to see more comparison videos of desktop frameworks, like where we compared Dino Desktop to Electron, I've linked a video right here that you can watch. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. I've been Warren from BetterStack, and I'll see you in the next one. And unfortunately, guys, Milo said no more videos for the week, so I'll see you on Monday.